When it comes to food storage, many people assume that refrigeration is the best way to keep items fresh and safe to eat. While it's true that refrigerators are essential for preserving many perishable goods, they are not a one-size-fits-all solution. In fact, some foods can be negatively affected by the cold temperatures in a refrigerator, leading to changes in texture, flavor, and nutritional value. In some cases, refrigerating certain foods can even accelerate spoilage rather than prevent it. Understanding which foods should not be refrigerated is crucial for maintaining their quality and ensuring they last as long as possible. For instance, while we often refrigerate fruits and vegetables to extend their shelf life, certain varieties are better suited to room temperature. The same goes for pantry staples like bread and coffee, which can lose their optimal flavor or texture when exposed to cold, damp environments. In this video, we will explore 8 commonly misunderstood foods that should not be stored in the fridge and explain why doing so can be harmful. We'll dive into the science behind why refrigeration isn't always the best option, shedding light on how cold temperatures can alter the composition and taste of various foods. By understanding these nuances, you can make more informed decisions about food storage and avoid common mistakes that lead to food waste or poor eating experiences. Before we go further, I've noticed that engagement has dipped a bit. If you're enjoying this content, please take a moment to like, comment, and share. It'll help more people discover it. Now let's dive into this guide and uncover which foods are better off outside the fridge. 1. Tomatoes are one of the most commonly misunderstood foods when it comes to refrigeration. Many people think refrigerating tomatoes will keep them fresh longer, but the opposite is true. Refrigeration dramatically alters the flavor and texture of tomatoes, turning them mealy and dull. This is because cold temperatures damage the cell structure of the fruit, causing it to break down in ways that leave it soft and grainy instead of juicy and firm. Tomatoes ripen best at room temperature, and refrigeration disrupts this natural process. When tomatoes are placed in the fridge, the ripening process slows significantly, preventing them from developing their full flavor. This is especially true for unripe tomatoes, which need warmth to continue ripening. A tomato that is chilled before it ripens fully may never reach its peak sweetness and juiciness, leaving you with a less satisfying product. Additionally, the aroma of a tomato, which is part of its flavor profile, is diminished when stored in cold environments. The volatile compounds that give tomatoes their distinctive smell are less active in cold temperatures, leading to a blander taste experience. To enjoy tomatoes at their best, keep them on your countertop. If you find that your tomatoes are ripening too quickly, you can slow the process slightly by placing them in a cooler part of the kitchen, but avoid the fridge unless they are fully ripe and you need to extend their life by just a day or 2. For long-term storage, freezing tomatoes is a better option than refrigeration, especially if you're planning to use them in cooked dishes. Freezing preserves their flavor and allows you to enjoy tomatoes out of season. But remember that once thawed, their texture will be soft, making them ideal for sauces or soups rather than fresh salads. 2. Potatoes are another kitchen staple that should never be stored in the refrigerator. The reason lies in the chemistry of starches. Cold temperatures cause the starches in potatoes to convert to sugars more quickly than they would at room temperature. This change in starch-sugar composition can lead to several undesirable effects, including an overly sweet taste and an unpleasantly gritty texture when cooked. When potatoes are exposed to cold for extended periods, this conversion of starch to sugar also affects the cooking process. For example, when you try to fry or roast refrigerated potatoes, they may turn out overly brown or burned on the outside while remaining undercooked on the inside. The excess sugar caramelizes too quickly under heat, making it difficult to achieve a crispy exterior without burning. Furthermore, refrigerating potatoes can lead to the production of a harmful compound called acrylamide when they are cooked at high temperatures, particularly in frying or roasting. Acrylamide is a potential carcinogen, and its formation is more likely when potatoes have an increased sugar content due to refrigeration. The best place to store potatoes is in a cool, dark, well-ventilated area such as a pantry or a cellar, where the temperature is relatively stable and they are protected from light. Exposure to light can cause potatoes to turn green and develop solanine, a bitter compound that is toxic in large amounts. If your potatoes sprout, They are still safe to eat, but be sure to cut away the sprouts and any green areas before cooking. For long-term storage, it's important to keep potatoes away from onions, which release gases that can cause potatoes to spoil more quickly. Proper storage will keep your potatoes firm and fresh for weeks or even months without the need for refrigeration. 3. Onions should never be placed in the refrigerator, primarily due to the moisture levels in a fridge. Onions need to be kept dry to stay fresh, and the cold, humid environment of a refrigerator can cause them to soften and become mushy. Moisture gets trapped in the layers of an onion, leading to the development of mold and a loss of their crisp texture. In addition to the moisture problem, refrigeration can affect the flavor of onions. Onions tend to absorb odors from other foods in the fridge, which can alter their taste. The distinct pungency of onions may be dulled or muddled when they're stored in a cold, damp environment, making them less flavorful when used in cooking. For optimal storage, onions should be kept in a cool, dry place with plenty of ventilation. A pantry, cupboard, or even a wire basket is ideal as long as there's good air circulation around the onions. Avoid storing onions in plastic bags, as this traps moisture and accelerates spoilage. Paper bags or mesh bags are a much better option for allowing airflow. One exception is if the onion has been peeled or cut. Once an onion has been sliced, it should be refrigerated in an airtight container to prevent it from drying out or absorbing other odors. However, whole onions will last much longer when stored properly outside of the fridge. 4. Garlic shares storage similarities with onions, as it is also a member of the allium family and should not be refrigerated. Refrigerating garlic can cause it to sprout prematurely and develop a rubbery texture. When garlic sprouts, its flavor becomes bitter and harsh, making it less enjoyable in your cooking. Cold temperatures also affect garlic's natural enzymes, diminishing its health benefits and flavor. In addition to sprouting, refrigerated garlic tends to absorb moisture from the fridge, which can lead to mold and decay. Proper garlic storage is essential for maintaining its robust flavor and preventing spoilage. The best way to store garlic is at room temperature in a dry, dark, and well-ventilated location. Like onions, garlic should not be kept in plastic bags, which trap moisture and encourage mold growth. Instead, use a breathable container such as a paper bag or a basket. Whole heads of garlic can last for several months when stored this way. If your garlic does begin to sprout, it's still usable, but the flavor may not be as desirable. You can cut away the green sprout and use the remaining garlic, though it's best to use sprouted garlic in cooked dishes rather than raw ones to minimize the bitter taste. For long-term storage, garlic can also be preserved by drying, freezing, or storing in oil. However, when storing garlic in oil, be sure to refrigerate the mixture and use it within a short period to avoid the risk of botulism. 5. Bread is another commonly misunderstood food when it comes to refrigeration. Many people believe that refrigerating bread will keep it fresh longer, but in reality, the cold environment of a fridge causes bread to go stale more quickly. This happens because refrigeration speeds up the process of starch crystallization, which makes bread hard and dry. The refrigerator's cold temperatures remove moisture from the bread, making it tough and less enjoyable to eat. While this might seem counterintuitive, bread actually stays fresh longer at room temperature. The only exception is in very humid climates where mold can develop quickly. In these cases, freezing bread is a better option than refrigeration. If you're not going to eat bread within a few days, freezing is the best way to preserve its freshness. Bread can be sliced before freezing, allowing you to take out only as much as you need at a time. When frozen properly, bread can last for months without losing its quality, and it will taste fresh once thawed. For everyday use, keep bread in a bread box, a paper bag, or a cloth bag, all of which allow the bread to breathe and retain its moisture balance. Avoid storing bread in plastic bags at room temperature, as this traps moisture and encourages mold growth. Proper storage will keep your bread fresh and flavorful for longer without the need for refrigeration. 6. Honey is one of nature's most perfect foods and doesn't require refrigeration to stay fresh. In fact, refrigerating honey can cause it to crystallize and become thick and difficult to pour or spread. This happens because honey is hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs moisture from the air. When exposed to cold temperatures, the glucose in honey forms crystals, which can make the honey grainy and harder to use. The crystallization of honey is a natural process and does not mean that the honey has gone bad. However, if your honey does crystallize, you can return it to a liquid state by gently warming it in a pot of hot water. Avoid overheating honey, as this can destroy its natural enzymes and health benefits. One of the reasons honey doesn't need refrigeration is that it's a natural preservative. Its high sugar content and low moisture levels create an environment in which bacteria and mold cannot grow. In fact, honey has been found in ancient tombs still perfectly preserved after thousands of years. To store honey properly, keep it in a tightly sealed jar in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight. If kept in the right conditions, honey can last indefinitely without spoiling. There's no need to refrigerate it, and doing so will only make it harder to use. 7. Bananas are a tropical fruit that doesn't do well in cold temperatures, which is why they should not be stored in the refrigerator. When bananas are exposed to cold, the enzymes responsible for ripening become inactive, causing the fruit to stop ripening. At the same time, the skin of the banana will turn black due to the breakdown of cell walls in the peel. While the blackened skin doesn't necessarily mean the banana is spoiled, the fruit inside may be affected in terms of texture and flavor. Bananas ripen best at room temperature, where they can gradually soften and develop their characteristic sweetness. Refrigerating bananas before they are fully ripe will prevent them from reaching their optimal flavor, leaving you with hard, starchy fruit. Once bananas are fully ripe, you can refrigerate them if you want to slow the ripening process, but be aware that the peel will still darken in the fridge. To avoid this, it's best to keep bananas at room temperature until they are ready to eat. If you have more ripe bananas than you can use, you can freeze them for later use in smoothies or baked goods. For proper banana storage, keep them in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight. If you want to slow the ripening process slightly, you can separate the bananas from each other, as they release ethylene gas that speeds up ripening when they are kept together. 8. Olive oil is a kitchen staple that many people mistakenly store in the refrigerator, believing it will extend its shelf life. However, refrigerating olive oil is not only unnecessary, but can also negatively affect its texture and usability. When olive oil is stored in the fridge, it solidifies and becomes cloudy due to the cold temperatures. This makes it difficult to pour or use, and it can take a long time for the oil to return to its liquid state once removed from the fridge. While refrigeration does not necessarily harm the quality of the olive oil, it can alter its appearance and make it less convenient to use. The solidified oil may also have a gritty texture when it first starts to warm up, which can be unappealing in certain dishes. Olive oil is best stored in a cool, dark place away from direct sunlight and heat. The ideal storage temperature for olive oil is around 57 degrees Fahrenheit 14 degrees Celsius, which is why many people keep it in a pantry or cupboard. Light and heat can cause olive oil to oxidize and turn rancid, so it's important to keep it in a dark-colored bottle or container that protects it from light exposure. By understanding these storage guidelines for different foods, you can ensure that your groceries stay fresh and flavorful for as long as possible. Proper storage not only enhances the quality of your meals, but also helps reduce food waste. Remember, not all foods benefit from the fridge, and in some cases, refrigeration can actually do more harm than good. With a little knowledge and attention to storage methods, you can make the most of the ingredients in your kitchen.